Hello, welcome to a European Open briefing for Monday, September 10th. I'm Rafi Barajan, currency analyst at XM.com, and we're going to be having a look at what's happening in the currency markets today. The US dollar started the week on a strong note. It made strong gains after last week's strong jobs report out of the US, and we're also hearing threats of more tariffs by President Trump, so that is also boosting the US dollar. But as we go into the European Open, the dollar has pared back some of its gains, and we're seeing a bit of a rebound for European currencies such as the euro and sterling, which fell sharply on a Friday. If you look at equities, they are mixed. Overall, the market sentiment is still in a risk-off mood, and that is weighing on the Australian and New Zealand dollars. Both pairs reached 2.5 months, fresh 2.5 months lows. We can see though the Aussie is now attempting a move upwards. If you look at the Canadian dollar, it's still down though. The USD CAD is extending its gains today. It's up at 1.3176 at the moment, as there's still no sign of a deal on NAFTA, despite reports suggesting that they are making talks. They're making progress in those talks. Another notable mover over the weekend is the Swedish krona. We had the general election in Sweden, and although the election has produced the likely hung parliament, the krona is still up as the far-right party didn't make as strong gains as had been predicted. And looking at oil prices, we can see WTI crude up by 0.8%. It had fallen sharply last week, but on Friday we saw a drop in the US oil rig count, so that is boosting the technical recovery. Gold is also slightly firmer at 1,195. Quick look at the major movers. We can see oil is the best performer, followed by Aussie dollar making a strong rebound as we get into the European trading session, and we can see dollar yen is now the worst performer. Looking at the dollar index, though, we can see that following those gains on Friday, it is now approaching those 2 week highs it made last week. So we saw a big gain in non-farm payrolls in August, and we also saw the annual wage growth in the US accelerating to 2.9%. That's the highest in 9 years, and that has boosted expectations that the Fed will continue raising interest rates as we get into 2019. There's also been some signs by several Fed officials that the US will continue with this gradual rate path policy, and we heard from Boston Fed President Eric Rosengren saying that rates may be raised to become mildly restrictive. That is, rates might have to be raised above neutral level, though it should be pointed out that Eric Rosengren is not a voting member of the FOMC this year. Nevertheless, dollar index is looking rather bullish at the moment. Dollar yen, though, is flat around the 111 level as those trade tensions support the Japanese currency. It's not good for the Australian dollar, though, because early in the day it did touch a 2.5-year low, 0.7094, though it has now rebounded back by the 0.71 level against the greenback. So President Trump on Friday did say that he actually threatened additional tariffs on Chinese imports worth $267 billion. That comes on top of the $200 billion which the public comment period ended last week, but the administration hasn't yet confirmed whether or not they will go ahead, but most likely they will go ahead. But we could see an announcement on that within the coming days. And adding to President Trump's argument is we had trade data out of China on Saturday, which showed that China's surplus with the US hit a fresh monthly record high in August, so that even strengthens Trump's argument. Trump also said that the US is starting negotiations with Japan on trade, and he wasn't as optimistic on talks with Canada as he was in prior days. He said we'll see what happens with regards to a NAFTA that would include Canada. And a quick look at the Swedish krona. We can see the krona has actually firmed sharply after the election results. The krona is at a 3.5-week high, earlier touching 10.4220 against the euro, and against the dollar it's risen to 1 month's high. So the general election means that no party now has a majority to form a government, and it will probably mean the center-left and center-right alliances having to work together in order to form a new government. The far-right party, although they did make substantial gains, it wasn't quite as much as had been feared. So that is why the krona is rallying after the election. And we can see last week the krona actually fell after the Riksbank's decision last Thursday, when they delayed a rate hike to December or the February meetings rather than the earlier predictions of October or the December meetings. And a quick look at what's coming up later on today. We're going to have GDP numbers out of the UK. That's the monthly GDP estimate, as well as industrial output. We already had GDP revisions out of Japan for the second quarter, which showed a sharp upward revision. It's going to be fairly quiet though in the US. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.